World unite for our collective liberation. The cost of life continues to go up while quality of life continues to go down. While the rich ruling class of the United States wages imperialist war on Iran, they also wage class war on us at home. They own the gas refineries, the fields that grow our food, and the factories that process everything we need to live, also known as the means of production. The rich ruling class are the ones who decide that life should have its cost and create the conditions to actually raise prices while lobbying away public education, social security, and beyond. Yet they have the audacity to blame working and oppressed people in the U.S. and internationally for horrifying conditions we are all dealing with day in and day out. The class war is both ideological and material. The wealthy elite and their puppet politicians, puppet journalists, puppet celebrities, and other misleaders work around the clock to keep us misinformed and brainwashed to justify conditions of fake scarcity that they create. Iranians are not the reason our water and drainage system have been neglected for decades. Unhoused peoples and Cubans are not the reason food and utility bills are going up. Trans people, migrants, and Venezuelans are not the reason gas and medicine prices are soaring. We absolutely have an enemy, and it is the ruling elite right here, not other working people, locally or globally. What can we do about it? We are told that if we want the power to change things, we should run for office or climb the ladder and become a boss. These are all lies that are promoted by the ruling elite to make working class people believe that we are powerless. In reality, working class people collectively have the power to flip this entire system over. We are not speaking symbolically. It is the working class that literally makes the world run. We are the ones who pick the food, drive delivery trucks, stock the shelves, fix pipes, and install cables, operate machinery, build homes, roads, bridges, and clean and maintain public and privately owned spaces, as do our working class siblings internationally. The iPhone supply chain, as just one example, passes through 43 different countries, starting in the Congo, and is processed by the labor of thousands of workers. Before arriving in the U.S., we already work together across colonial borders daily to produce for society, but we don't yet own and control what we collectively produce. This is only possible under socialism. The working class is far from powerless, but our strength is not in who we vote for, what we buy or boycott, or how large our social media following is. Our power lies directly in our labor. Our hands are on all the levers, but under the capitalist system, we don't call the shots, and corporations have more rights than workers. Bosses, CEOs, and their paid minions are the ones keeping us down, not other working people. So how do we fight to change our conditions for the better? Malcolm X was clear as day when he said, "We are not outnumbered, we are out-organized." The first step in getting organized is getting clear politically. This means clearly identifying what our shared interests are as working people and identifying who the barriers are to accessing those shared interests. When the CEOs and politricksters want to charge new fees for water and lights, that's a collective problem, not an individual problem. Maybe you can afford your water and light bill now, but eventually they will raise the cost of something you need to the point that is out of reach. When we push back on one act of class war against us, we are laying the groundwork to push back against all acts of class war against us. Political clarity and principled solidarity will take us farther than any empty promises, scapegoating, or scare tactics the ruling elite use to get us to fall in line. We have more in common with each other and with working families in Iran and Cuba than we ever will with our own ruling elite and their minions, all the way down to our city council. Organizing ourselves to force the things we need out of the hands of the oppressor, building principled solidarity with fellow workers here and across colonial borders, and even socialist revolution are all things that have been and will continue to be achieved in human history. We too can wage class war on the rich, from fighting to keep our libraries open and functional to fixing our water and drainage system to getting organized enough to go on strike for as long as needed. Any decent thing we have as the working class, from Social Security to the end of child labor, are all things we got organized for and took by force from the rich ruling class. But as long as we still live under an economic system designed for the rich, everything we fight for can and will be rolled back. We fight not simply for concessions. We fight to build up our power as the working class. Winning the class war doesn't mean fighting for less hostile conditions under capitalism. It means replacing this system altogether for socialism, an economic system that is driven by meeting collective needs, not individual greed. The road ahead may feel daunting, but we aren't outnumbered. It's time to get organized. We're taught at such an early age to be against the communists, yet most of us don't have the faintest idea what communism is. Only a fool lets somebody else tell him who his enemy is. I never thought I could be so easily tricked into being against something that I didn't understand. It's got to be one of the most basic principles of living. Always decide who your enemies are for yourself, and never let your enemies choose your enemies for you. Assad Shakur. The People's History. Lessons in the necessity of working class solidarity. May Day and the New Orleans General Strike of 1892. Workers of the world, unite! This is the slogan of International Workers' Day, also known as May Day. International Workers' Day is an officially recognized day off for work nearly everywhere in the world, except for in the U.S., even though the day commemorates the efforts of working class people in the U.S. that organized the General Strike of 1886. The U.S. rich ruling class intentionally refuses to recognize May Day to suppress the history of militant labor organizing and solidarity between workers in the U.S. with workers internationally. Instead, the U.S. observes Labor Day, a retail holiday with no mention of actual labor or working class solidarity. The Industrial Revolution, through the creation of large factories, brought huge numbers of workers into shared space, and workers seized this opportunity to organize for more humane conditions. Starting 1884, workers, unions, and communist organizers all over the U.S. spent 2 years organizing across state lines, industries, and job roles, demanding the 8-hour workday, 5-day work week, the end of child labor, necessary protections on a job, and beyond. If these demands were not met, a mass strike would take place on May 1st, 1886. The General Strike of 1886 inspired workers around the world to demand an 8-hour workday, making it the very first internationally coordinated labor struggle. Workers of the world, unite is not an empty slogan. It is a call to action. While the Civil War and chattel enslavement had officially come to an end a year prior to the strike, the toxic ideology of white supremacy, which is not supreme, persisted. It is one of the greatest divisions between working people today that must be defeated. As a result of this appalling and backwards mentality, black workers were banned from industrial jobs in a majority of labor unions. Black workers insisted on participating in a general strike of 1886 anyway. The black working class demonstrated principled solidarity when they had every justification not to, because of a clear understanding that sacrificing one group of workers is a tactic that only benefits the interests of the capitalist class, never the interests of the working class. With every struggle comes important lessons that can be seized in future battles against the exploiting class. Only a few short years later, these lessons were applied in the General Strike of New Orleans in 1892. The New Orleans Trade Board attempted to use white supremacy to pit white workers against black workers in an effort to maintain low pay for all workers. As a result, one black union and two white unions known as the Triple Alliance and a citywide united front called the Working Men's Amalgamated Council, made of 25,000 workers, came together in a historic and unprecedented act of worker solidarity that crossed the racial divide, national identity, and industries to shut down the entire city, to the shock and horror of the racist capitalist class, who were forced to negotiate with black and white workers together. White and black workers understood that if the bosses could continue to lowball black workers, it would also help keep wages low for white workers as well. This was a profound material example of worker solidarity in the South and in the U.S., all anchored in a common working class interest against our common enemy, the exploiting capitalist class. The class struggle has consistently shown us that it is only through fighting the capitalist class, not each other, have we ever gained better material conditions. In the face of devastating conditions at home and imperialist war and genocide abroad, we must continue to sound the alarm. Workers of the world, unite is a call to action for mass organization and solidarity across every manufactured division the ruling class has sown among us. It's time to get organized and unified. Our lives and collective liberation depend on it. Workers of the world, unite. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Sister Asada Shakur. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains, are the closing words of the Communist Manifesto written by Karl Marx, published in 1848. The statement has become popularized by communist revolutionaries around the world. Revolt. You have nothing to lose but your chains and your tents. George Hosford, a Palestinian revolutionary who founded the Marxist resistance organization, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, in 1967. The PFLP correctly identified both Zionism and U.S. imperialism as the barriers that must be overcome to liberate Palestine. The PFLP also promotes the understanding through political education that liberation can only come from the organized resistance of oppressed peoples, not the Palestinian politicians or businessmen. Liberation will come from Palestinians living in tents, not ivory towers.